Everyone is always trying to understand themselves better, and it will be a lifelong pursuit, one that I don't think is going to be complete until our last breath, with very few exceptions. We may be comfortable with who we are at any given point and have a decent grasp on ourselves, but very few have true comprehension of self until those last few seconds. The resolution to our quest, one final gift to ourselves when we're able to reflect on everything all at once, and suddenly everything comes into perfect focus. Because we're meant to be curious, we're driven to understand, and what greater mystery is there than ourselves? What could possibly be more interesting to us than us? And yet, without even understanding ourselves, we try and figure other people out, as if we even have a chance of knowing someone who we see a small fraction of when we don't even know ourselves. And we have full access to the person that we are. We put everyone into boxes, and we put ourselves in those boxes too. You see it everywhere, and quite honestly, it stunts us. He's an introvert, therefore. She's type A, therefore. I'm phlegmatic, therefore. Do you see the problem with all those statements? Every single one of them profiles. Every one of them makes assumptions based on extremely limited concepts. And nobody is a good enough judge of character to classify and assign limiting traits to someone else when you don't even see 1% of who that person really is. So stop trying. You might be thinking, I'm not saying that's the person's entire identity, but I need to understand how they think in order to know how to interact with them. And I'll counter with kinda to some extent, and the but is kind of a big one. For acquaintances, if you stop trying to figure out who somebody actually is and listen to who they're just projecting instead, it saves you a lot of confusion, time, and frustration. Because if you pay attention, that person's going to tell you exactly how they want to be interacted with. And on a day-to-day level, that's really all you need to know. You don't need to psychoanalyze your coworkers, you just need to work with them. For people closer to you than that, the box isn't necessary either, because close friends and family will just tell you who they are if you're open to hearing it, as much as they figured it out themselves anyway. Kind of a hot take now. It might seem like a tangent, but I promise it ties back in. Because I have a problem with modern psychology as a whole. By modern, I mean psychology as a science that was pioneered in the late 1800s, because where has it led us? In the early days, it was an excuse to remove people from society because they might have some traits that people thought were uncouth or made civilized people uncomfortable. And though the psychiatric hospitals of old have largely been condemned as archaic and cruel, is the modern equivalent really any better? All we're doing is convincing people that there's something wrong with them instead of locking them away. That the only way to be normal, whatever that is to take a bunch of pharmaceuticals. And the deeper you look, the more you realize it's all tied back to money. I'm not saying the doctors themselves are driven by greed, though some certainly are. I believe the vast majority really are trying to help people, but the entire system that's been developed around it is entrenched in greed. It's supported by greed, and it's taking advantage of the most vulnerable people that it possibly could. The mental health crisis in this country is very real, but instead of addressing the root cause of those issues, they're created, enabled, and masked by prescription after prescription after prescription. Because these doctors have been trained to treat symptoms, not to diagnose and fix the root cause. And what ties this back in is that psychiatry as a science has to put people in a box in order to justify its own existence. It's the vessel in which the entire industry is carried, and it really couldn't operate otherwise. Depression, anxiety, personality disorders, they're all symptoms. Nobody's really trying to fix what causes them. And before I get a bunch of hate for this, I'm not saying psychiatrists shouldn't exist. I'm not even saying the medications shouldn't exist. But is there too much trust placed in the system? 100%. Are people over or wrongly medicated? 100%. Is it creating addicts for corporate profit? 100%. Should the medications be used as a stopgap while the real root causes of someone's problem is diagnosed and addressed? 100%. If the system worked, if psychiatry as a science worked, the problem would be going away. But it's exasperating as the care becomes ever more widespread and ostensibly better. I realize this got a bit heavy, but besides potentially bringing some awareness and critical thought to a topic that's mostly treated as gospel, it really was just to illustrate the damage that boxes can do when taken to the extreme. Each individual is the only person who's truly capable of understanding themselves, and putting them in a box is not only insulting, but can actually hinder your understanding of them on a real level if that relationship ever grew to that point. And putting yourself in a box, please just stop. You owe yourself so much more than to simply identify the deepest parts of your psyche as an extrovert. You may think it's helping to understand yourself, but you're really just putting a label on something and ignoring all the rest, even burying it. And the rest could just be the most important part. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I truly do appreciate it. Please do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really does mean the world to me and helps let the algorithm know that this video is worth the next person's attention. Until next time, take care.